It's just simple. Don't drink and drive.
A father's message about the dangers of drinking and driving, and a check on APD's efforts to make Austin streets safer with its No Refusal initiative.
A cold front moving through Texas now will bring us a reality check after we almost hit 90 today. We'll show you the temperature drop in first warning weather.
Roofs torn, trees uprooted, and fences tossed. A look at the aftermath after a tornado ripped through the Houston area.
But first, we do begin with a traffic alert on I-35. TxDOT still has its main southbound lanes closed at Howard Lane, shut down because of a crash tonight. Austin Travis County EMS says it involved several vehicles with 4 patients, 2 people taken to the hospital. This happened just before 8 this evening. No word yet on the cause of this crash or how long this closure could last. But again, I-35 south at Howard Lane. Thanks so much for joining us tonight at 10 o'clock. I'm Daniel Marino.
And I'm Jennifer Sanders. DWI crashes can spike during the holidays. New Year's Eve is no exception, and APD is preparing to go out in full force this week to keep the streets safe.
KXAN's Brianna Hollis updates us on a new year-round effort to prevent drunk driving and shows us an example of the consequences.
Love serving others, died serving others, and protecting others.
Jeffrey Richardson, a Poteet police officer, dead at age 35, killed by a drunk driver near the Domain as he directed traffic at a construction site off Mopac. His father, Alan, says he left behind a wife and 5 children.
He had a full life ahead of him.
The driver, Lindsay Smith, 26 years old at the time of the crash, is just months into her 18-year prison sentence for striking Richardson.
There's just too many resources available to pick up keys.
In October, the Austin Police Department made its once seasonal No Refusal initiative a full-time program. This means if police pull you over, suspect you're driving drunk, ask you to take a breath or blood test, and you refuse, APD will issue a warrant right away to require you to take the test once you get to jail.
By obtaining a search warrant and getting blood evidence on DWI investigation, it just confirms what the officers on scene saw, the performance on the standardized field sobriety test, and adds more evidence to the case.
Detective Christopher Morrison says over the past 3 months, APD has made about 250 DWI arrests per month. Out of those, he says about 100 people each month refuse the breath or blood tests. Alan, happy to see any efforts to curb drunk driving, speaking out about his unimaginable loss.
No idea what devastation you leave behind.
To let people know just how real the consequences are.
If it saves one life, then it's absolutely worth every second that I can spend doing this.
Brianna Hollis, KXAN News.
And prior to the expansion of No Refusal, APD would operate the initiative on weekends, during holidays, and during big events like ACL and South by Southwest. Now, to make the year-round program work, the department received a grant, some funding to staff DWI specialists at the jail who are always on hand to execute these No Refusal warrants. Going in depth, here's some information on punishments for DWI. These are in cases that do not result in the death of another person. According to TxDOT, first-time offenders can see a fine of up to $2,000 and up to 180 days in jail. You can also lose your driver license for up to a year, and this doesn't include any attorney's fees.
Cap Metro is doing its part to make sure you celebrate safely this New Year's Eve. It's running rail service later than normal and giving everyone free rides on trains and buses after 5 p.m. tomorrow. Cap Metro says it will extend service tomorrow to help you get in and out of downtown easily for the party at Auditorium Shores. The last train will leave the downtown station around 2:30 Wednesday morning. And keep in mind, Cap Metro will operate a scaled back service on Wednesday.
Tonight, Texas is no longer under an extreme fire risk. Earlier today, firefighting resources were on standby in West Texas and the Hill Country. The Texas Division of Emergency Management says it has 39 pieces of equipment ready to deploy wherever it is needed. Smaller fire departments like the Volunteer Fire Department in Mason County say these resources are necessary to fight large wildfires.
They've got dozers and maintainers readily available, already loaded up, just need to be dispatched out. A lot of the country here in Mason County is real rough where you can't get a truck like this or any of our other trucks in and around.
The Texas A&M Fire Service said fireworks are a major concern, especially with New Year's Eve celebrations. They are asking the public to be safe and follow any local burn bans. And of course, not only was the air dry today and windy, but very hot. Our high of 89 easily broke the previous high temperature record for this day of 83 set back on this date in 1951. Since then, temperatures have come down, but we're still at 69 in Austin. Widespread 50s in our eastern counties, 50s, 60s in the hill country. I think that 70-degree reading there in Burnett is probably not super accurate, but it's pleasant out there, especially considering the time of year. Clear skies and we're dry. There's a cold front just to our north, though. That's going to be moving through over the next few hours, knocking us down to 48 in Austin as we begin your morning tomorrow. So it will certainly be a colder morning as you step out here tomorrow, and breezy as well. Coming up in first warning weather, we'll track that cold front for tonight. That'll bring us back to near normal for much of the next several days. Ahead of this, we'll give you a first warning about the potential for some very winter-like cold and possible winter-like precipitation next week.
All right, Nick, thank you so much. A lot of debris remains scattered in parts of Brazoria County near Houston. This is what it looks like today after a deadly tornado ripped through several homes on Saturday. 48-year-old Jamie Brown died in the storm. Her wife says that she and her mother took cover in a small red house next door.
This is where you rode out the storm?
Yeah, me and my mom.
What was that like?
We've been on a roller coaster with no seatbelts. It just throws you up, you go up with it, you go down, you fly, you flop, and everything you can do.
Where was your wife?
In the house that belongs right here, in the kitchen.
And the family said the Red Cross is assisting, but they are not sure where they will go next. They are hoping their insurance will cover the damages. The National Weather Service says the tornado tore through more than 8 miles of that area, damaging 10 homes and injuring 4 others.
Well, if you were trying to access the Texas Department of Public Safety's website, you're going to run into this. Today, DPS announced on social media that it's trying to work through an outage that's affecting driver license offices statewide. DPS wrote on X that staff is working with affected customers to reschedule their appointments. It went on to say that offices will be closed tomorrow and Wednesday for the New Year holiday.
The nation is preparing its final goodbyes for a beloved son of Georgia. Former President Jimmy Carter died Sunday at his Georgia home at the age of 100. He was surrounded by family. Carter's official state funeral is being held January 9th. President Joe Biden declared that day a national day of mourning. All federal offices will be closed on that day as well. The former president is expected to lie in state at the U.S. Capitol from January 7th to the 9th. Services honoring Carter start this Saturday and include a brief pause at the family farm in Plains, Georgia, where he grew up.
Travelers heading to the United Kingdom in 2025 will have an extra step before takeoff. A new requirement means that some will now need what's known as an electronic travel authorization before boarding their flights. This ETA is an online travel authorization designed to enhance UK border security, and it's required for travelers from visa-exempt countries, including the U.S., who are visiting the UK for tourism, business, or short-term studies. You can apply online with your passport and a fee of about $13. It is recommended you apply about a week before your flight to the UK. Approval can take about 3 days. This requirement goes into effect on January 8th.
The Internal Revenue Service is looking to hire for 300 job vacancies and plans to hold a job fair next week to fill those spots, and the agency plans to hire on the spot. Some of the open entry-level positions include clerks and tax examiners, and the pay ranges between $17 to almost $20 an hour. The job fair is next week on January 7th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Austin South Park Hotel near the southeast intersection of I-35 and 71. If you live in the city of Austin, you're about to get another purple notification slip like this one in the mail. It'll be the 3rd time you've gotten one. The first 2 were over major land development code changes.
Now this time the city of Austin is notifying you about changes they could be making to short-term rental rules. Think Airbnb or Vrbo. That's according to several city council members. KXAN's Grace Reeder breaks down what you can expect moving forward.
After years of inaction on short-term rentals, the city of Austin is poised to make that conversation one of its first of the new year. Councilmember Ryan Alter says there are a few areas City Council seems to be focused so far, mainly setting up workable rules and enforcement.
So we want to make sure that if we're having limitations on the number of licenses or number of short-term rentals, is that an appropriate number? Because right now we have caps that are just not even enforced. Second is then on that enforcement piece, we have to make sure that we have the tools necessary so that we can go out and enforce unlicensed short-term rentals.
The exact details of what will be on the purple slip you get and what changes city staff will bring back to council are still being worked out behind the scenes. You're expected to get those notifications in the mail mid-January, and the issue could be discussed at meetings in February if all goes as planned.
Right now, our regulations are in a number of places. Some of them are in the zoning code, some of them are in other portions of the city code. What I think you're going to see based on these court decisions is a move away from the zoning element and more into like the business regulations that we see for other types of entities.
Matt Curtis, the founder of Smart City Policy Group, travels the world helping cities address this very issue, and he just so happens to be in our backyard. Curtis says compliance is a major issue here and says the city should look to relatively new tech to help with that.
You know, now there's actually a lot of opportunity for outsourcing for better compliance. So there's software compliance tools that can almost take care of everything the city needs so that any operator who is able to operate legally is doing so and they're doing a great job. But then anybody who might be doing something inappropriately, they're addressed quickly and effectively.
Grace Reader, KXAN News.
Data from sites like AirDNA show Austin has more than 15,000 short-term rentals. That number grows during major events like South by Southwest and Austin City Limits Music Festival. But less than 15% have the city-required short-term rental license. When we checked in with the city in October, they told us there were only roughly 2,300 properties with an active license.
And if anybody's planning on staying at an Airbnb for New Year's Eve, the platform is going to have some measures in place to make sure they do not throw a party. Airbnb tracks information about the reservation to help determine the potential risk for a disruptive unauthorized party. And if the risk is deemed high, well, then the guest will be blocked from booking or redirected to other accommodations. Also, guests will have to confirm that they understand that violations could result in a suspension or even removal from the platform. All right, well, the fencing is up tonight around Auditorium Shores ahead of tomorrow night's official City of Austin New Year's celebration. Third Eye Blind is the headliner. The annual free event kicks off at 7 tomorrow night. It's going to wrap up at midnight with the fireworks show. You can also expect plenty of food trucks and performances by DJs and other artists.
Like you said, Nick, you know that they wish that they had tonight's weather instead of what's headed our way tomorrow night.
Yeah, we're almost at 70 right now still in Austin.
Lovely.
Almost reaching 90 earlier today. But alas, an overnight cold front's going to change things for us. This is how it looks from our downtown Austonian weather camera. Completely clear skies, not getting any cloudiness or rain with this cold front, just a colder air mass and a little bit more wind here for tomorrow. We're at 69 now in Austin. Behind the front, some 40s and 50s. Not a huge and dramatic temperature drop, but we are going to notice the numbers coming down into the 50s by 1, and then you see we start tomorrow morning in the upper 40s. Call it a low of 48. And then the numbers do climb thanks to sunshine, just not climb as quickly as they did today. That northerly wind helping to offset the sun. So we'll go with a high of 65 tomorrow afternoon. Now, that is still warmer than normal for this time of year, just not the 89 like we had today. So 65 here tomorrow, much closer to where we should be this time of year. The wind will pick up and change direction as our cold front arrives soon after midnight. You can see gusts in the 20 to 30 mile per hour range, especially just after the sun comes up. And then slowly through the day, that northerly wind will start to back off, and we'll notice much less in the way of wind tomorrow night. So the Texas A&M Forest Service have a lower fire danger for us tomorrow. It's moderate for most in the blue, but it's still high in Mason, parts of Llano, Gillespie, and Blanco County. But today it was extreme. So a big improvement here for tomorrow. The air is still going to be dry. The wind will still be noticeable, but the air will not be as dry as it was here today. Clouds and radar is clear, and you can see as we take you into the future, your Tuesday is all sunny all the time. Then we get into Tuesday night and Wednesday. Wednesday starts with sun, but as we start to get a south wind picking back up again later in the day, we'll notice increasing clouds late Tuesday afternoon into Tuesday night. That will give way to a lot of clouds for Wednesday night into Thursday, and Thursday should start with a lot of clouds and even some sprinkles. So your Tuesday is sunny. Wednesday has a lot of sun until the end of the day, and then Thursday the clouds are in with some sprinkles and drizzle around. So your day tomorrow, 65, sunny and breezy, much cooler than today, but still average. And then New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. New Year's Eve at midnight, 47. New Year's Day, Wednesday, sunshine and 60, but don't forget about those late day clouds. Temperatures will start to climb after Wednesday. So Wednesday should be our coldest morning and our coldest afternoon for at least the next few days. 63 Thursday, 65 on Friday. And there's your Wednesday morning low of 40 with some 30s away from Austin. And then those nighttime numbers or early morning numbers start to climb. Here's a look at our first warning weather 7-day forecast. You can see the extra clouds here for Thursday, 63, a little more sun Friday, 65. And then we get into the weekend and the numbers keep climbing. 67 Saturday, 72 on Sunday with a little bit of a rain chance Sunday. That's due to another cold front coming in late Sunday that will bring a tiny rain chance, but a huge temperature drop into next Monday. We'll go from 72 to 52, but here's a first warning. Next week, mid to late next week, we're looking for the coldest air since last winter and the possibility for nighttime freezes just about everywhere and even some wintry precipitation as well. Still too early for specifics, but here's your first warning for next week.
This is KXAN Sports, brought to you by Thomas J. Henry.
Good evening to you from Atlanta. Longhorns, one more workout today, and then, well, pretty much, as they say, the hay is in the barn as they get set for this Peach Bowl game. They went inside Mercedes-Benz Stadium for a light workout, and then the rest of it will be pretty much mental as they get ready for this ball game against Arizona State. Now, Texas hoping there's a lot more left to this postseason, but still, as we approach the end of the year, a chance to reflect a little bit. So I had a chance to ask some players about memorable moments, both individually and as a team that has shaped this season.
As a team, winning in the Big House, one of the hardest places to play in college football. Going in there 100 against 100,000, it was really cool to see us persevere.
2 4th down stops on the goal line, right? One in A&M and then one at home against Clemson. So our defense, that just goes to credit to them.
Not a lot of people would talk about this, but there were 6 minutes on the clock, and I can't remember how much we were up against Arkansas, but the offense got the ball. Alfred Collins got a forced fumble. The offense gets the ball with 6 minutes left, and we don't go on the field again. They keep the ball for 6 minutes. They just run it 20 straight times, and that shows what type of team we are. The physicality that the offense brought, and everybody didn't believe that we could do that in the SEC.
Clemson game, my second touchdown, and my O-line just mowed everybody down. So it's really like a walk-in touchdown.
Man, the biggest moment for me was probably the 77-yarder I had last week. With how the game was going, Clemson, had drove down the field and scored. Then it was the beginning of the fourth quarter. The game was getting tight. So, my mindset was to just, I was telling people on the sideline that, I wanted to be the guy the reason why we won this game, man. I wasn't gonna let us go home. So, for me, scoring that touchdown was not only big for me, but it was big for my teammates and the guys in the running back room, that always has my back.
It was also big because Arch doesn't have the longest run now this season. He had it since early in the season.
It's crazy because I didn't even know he had the longest run this year. How long was it again?
67.
Yeah, I didn't even know. Yeah, I didn't even know he had the longest run until you just told me.
Surprised to know that he beat your season record for longest run.
Yeah, I know.
For Clemson. He didn't realize that.
He didn't realize, yeah, he's a stud. He should have beat that a long time ago.
Blue and Quintravian Wisner in that running game always a key. When they've struggled in their 2 losses to Georgia, they've struggled in the run game. Another subplot to this, all the former Longhorns on the Arizona State roster. 6 Sun Devils who played at Texas, and that means a lot of guys that know each other as former teammates.
It's definitely fun when you get to see somebody, across the field and you know them, you know that face, you recognize that face, and y'all have talked ball together, y'all have, broken bread together. It's definitely weird. It's definitely a cool feeling, but, at the end of the day, they're the opponent, and my goal is to go win.
It's pretty simple to understand. If they're too deep on both sides of the ball, the 44 players, 33 of them are transfers. So it takes a bit of time to find that rapport. But I think it's a real credit to Coach Dillingham of a guy who's maximized this era of college football.
When you were watching the Clemson game, did you want Texas?
I mean, I kind of, not really. It really didn't matter, but I was like, you know, that would be pretty cool, you know, to play my old school and in a game of this magnitude.
It's really cool. I'm excited to see, you know, some old friends and just have a lot of respect for them. They're one of the best teams in the country, and we're excited for the challenge.
Yeah, those are all my old friends, you know, old teammates. I thought it'd be really cool to play them. And they're a really good team, so it's a chance for us to prove ourselves.
The big connection with all those ASU players from Texas, Brian Carrington, former Texas recruiting coordinator from 2017 to 2020, now on the staff at ASU as their cornerbacks coach. Jermaine Lole is a former Sun Devil, now a defensive tackle for Texas. Of course, the Longhorns and the Sun Devils are game 2 of the 4 quarterfinal games. The first one, New Year's Eve, and that is at the Fiesta Bowl. Penn State and Boise State. Winner of that one headed to the Final Four. For a lot more on this matchup, the Longhorns and the Sun Devils, check out KXAN.com.
All right, Roger, thank you very much. And don't forget, we have all of your pregame action before the big game on New Year's Day at 11 a.m. on our sister station, KBVO. We'll be right back.